hot here in England. We have had a month-long heat wave of temperatures in between 90 and 95 degrees. Weeks and weeks of it. So I have this clunker of an air conditioner over here to keep me cool. So you'll have to pardon some of the ambient sound in the background as that is cranked up to high mode. So I am so excited for this first summer session. I have my friend Dalya joining me to discuss vintage fragrances. We are not going to stick to any one particular theme. It's just going to be a free-form discussion, sharing our favorite vintage fragrances, new additions maybe. I think at least for me, it's going to be a lot of new additions because I received a mystery package at my doorstep a few days ago from a certain gentleman by the name of Nuge, and he sent me an assortment of incredible curiosities, some of the most obscure stuff to come out of the 80s and 90s, along with some more familiar stuff to some of you at least. So I'm going to be sharing some of that as well. And this should be a great conversation. We have 11 people who are currently tuned in. We're going to take a look at the chat here. We have famous YouTuber, otherwise known as Duncan. Hello, Duncan. Thank you for joining us. The name of the Nuge. Yes, the Nuge. And we're going to wait just a couple more minutes while we get some more people tuned into the live stream, and then I'm going to bring in Dalya, and we're going to have a lively conversation on vintages. And we have Will in the house. Hello, Will. Hope you're enjoying those decants. I hope that I used the Teflon tape properly so that there would be minimal leakage before reaching your door. Emily, lovely to see your smile. And Darren as well. Pleasure to see you, one of our resident perfumer authorities, I would say. I would definitely consider Darren to be one of our resident authorities on perfume making. Pat Lester, great to see you as well. And Will says that he is loving Leonard Pour Homme. That is excellent. I am glad that you're enjoying that. That is one of my favorite 80s masculines. So we're going to give it about 2 more minutes, and then we're going to bring in Dalya from the green room, from backstage, and we'll get things started. You're a sweetheart. Thank you very much. Haute couture. Yes, Milochen. Should I hazard to step away? Maybe I'll step away when Dalya gets on and grab a couple of the things that we were just chatting about, the haute couture, the Leonard Pour Homme. But I already have hundreds of things that I had gathered together here. Hundreds maybe is an exaggeration, but definitely several. So let's get this started. Please, everyone, welcome Dalya. I'm going to bring her in here. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so glad that you could do the YouTube version of Effluvium. You joined me for like baby Effluvium when I was just doing Instagram.
Did I? I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I remember it was an Instagram live. It was like over 2 years ago.
Time has ceased to exist. It no longer has any meaning. It's a construct. No. But no, this is great. I am feeling a little bit like Smog or some sort of dragon with a horde here with all my little vintage minis like within reach so that I don't have to do some unattractive lunge in the middle of the conversation to grab something. But as you were talking, I was like, oh no, I forgot to grab this. I forgot to grab that. So
it always happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just have to surrender and like, trust me, it's somewhere back there. It's somewhere stored away. I'm not going to step away. And then I'm actually going to be getting a new microphone pretty soon because this one has like, it's very loose. So if I get up, the little wire will shorten, and then there's a huge audio fiasco, and we don't want that.
Yeah.
So I know how much that annoys my audience when I try to do that. Jean-Claude Scent, otherwise known as Michi, says hello to me and to everyone, and her scent of the day is Cristal. Oh yeah, very nice. I like the lime note in that. It's a very the aromatic quality of that is really driven by the lime. So Dalya, why don't we just dive right in, as they say on YouTube, and why don't you share with us the one fragrance within reach that you're most excited to share with us?
That's a great assist, a great setup. I'm going to share what got me into vintage. So, just to start us off, this, I don't know how that looks on camera.
I can do a zoom so we can see that. We'll
Ooh,
take a look at
nicely
that.
done. This is called Nostalgia, very apropos, and I got it sealed and had probably like a month of conflict over whether or not to open it, and then I did open it. And I'm so glad I did. It's this gorgeous, spicy kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Moment, scent memory of somebody else kind of moment, where it's a very evocative kind of a scent. And it's by, I don't know how you say it really, Montiel?
Let's
Montal?
get it. Let's zoom right back in here and see if I can. Oh, Montiel, is it Germain Montiel?
It
Yeah,
is.
Germain Montiel. Yeah, that
And
is
so,
a classic perfume house that pretty much
forgotten.
went defunct by the 80s. And I have a few from Germain Montiel. I have Baccaire, and then there's Royal Secret.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's in the.
Royal Secret is the jam. That is like definitely not a modern fragrance by any means, but
You dab it with this little cap that has a little doodle. That's the technical
yes.
term. Just this very spicy kind of, what's something modern that's similar? Oh gosh, maybe Dark Side by Francesca Bianchi is in the zone. It's not quite obviously the same, but that kind of feel. But this has just such a softness, like a anyway. So this is the bottle. I definitely bought it for the bottle. I didn't care honestly if it had turned or not, just because there's this amazing kind of cut glass situation.
Right.
And I learned a lot just in the process, because I had to look up who is Germain Montiel, or apologies to the entirety of France. I'm going to mispronounce a lot of things today. But it's got a great little Art Deco-y kind of a logo on the top. So that's where I'm starting. And what would you like to counter with, JJ?
Off the cuff here?
Yeah, dive in. Go with it. Show off.
How about a hobnail?
Oh, love a hobnail. Oh, Lalong, yes.
Lucien Lelong, Balalaika.
Oh, well, I love Tailspin. I wear Tailspin like still. Yes. Does she play the balalaika?
If only I were that talented. But,
oh my gosh, so cute!
Look at this.
Adorbs. Really, really cute.
I almost hear da, 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 da.
Okay, but now I have to do the awkward reach that I wasn't going to do.
Okay, well, I'll zoom in so we don't see the awkward reach. So I will just so that way we won't see you having to do that. We'll just marvel at balalaika. And
okay. Now look what I got.
Look. We're gonna back.
What?
And yours has a little jaunty bow as well.
So jaunty, on elastic for class. Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah, no, hobnail, fun. This you can still buy Lalong.
I know they actually still have some of them in production. Nobody knows this. And
I don't know how, but yes.
Like, how are they selling them to warrant keeping them in production? But yes, and I've heard, I would trust you since you probably have a newer version of it, that they still smell fantastic.
Yeah.
But balalaika, for people who want to know, instead of just like filing off a bunch of notes, I'm just going to remind myself just through smelling. Yeah. So this comes from that era where you still have these notes messing around in compositions like violet and heliotrope and a lot of orris. But then there is this sort of like spiciness, not to use the O word. I know that we're trying to move away from that. Some people don't want to use it, but we do have that Eastern exoticism going on here. And it's just beautiful stuff. Just very well preserved for the age. I don't know exactly how old this version is, um, but I've only splashed on a little bit of it, and I don't know. These are just great conversational pieces as well.
Yeah.
But this is considered a classic. Lucien Lelong is not. It's not really chatted about as much as other vintages. It's sort of not given its due recognition as a house, but it should. And even the vintages are not that expensive, honestly. So, yeah.
I have a vintage set now that you mention it, and we would have to zoom out again because I would actually have to get up and like go to find it. But it's a oh my gosh, it's actually really sweet. There's a note in there. Like somebody gave it to somebody as a gift, like they're in the hospital or something.
You got to show the note as well. What I'll do is I'll zoom into myself and I'll just keep the audience entertained. Here we go.
Entertain the people. Tell them I love them. I will be back.
She loves you, and I know that you love her as well. I'm seeing some notes in some comments rather in the chat, and we're going to share those in just a moment. So Balalaika, to give you sort of more of a concrete description, it's floral, it's woody, it's powdery, musky. There is sort of like even this gardenia that's going on. And I'll show you guys for anybody who's just joined. Here's the box. I'm going to take it back out again. Here's what they call the hobnail. And that is it. Balalaika from Lucien Lelong. And Dalya is fetching something exciting for us. It includes a little note as well. And isn't it awesome when you can discover in an antique shop or wherever a vintage fragrance, and it includes a little surprise.
To be honest, you used to be able to do this on eBay, and eBay you can't find as much anymore. Okay,
no, it's true.
All right, wow, thank you for entertaining the people while I ran. Okay. This is okay. I really should have.
Everybody brace yourselves.
Sit down. If you're not, it's so cute. Okay, there's a label on the back.
It looks like a present. It looks like it's Christmas time. Okay.
It does. Lucien Lelong on the back, New York and Chicago. All right. So you open it and look at it.
Ooh.
So cute.
That Art Deco kind of font in Lucien Lelong.
Honestly, it's like a children's book, and I am being like a child, and I don't even care. So I have Tailspin, which we already know that I love because I have the hop.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I haven't worn these. And then Sirocco is another one.
Mm-hmm. That was one I was trying to look for.
But they're cologne strength. Anyway, here's this little note.
Yes. Would you recite the note? Would you? Oh, you don't even need to. It's such a short one.
Isn't it?
Dear, is that Hilda?
It says, "Dear," it might say, "Hilda, this is to help you get well soon. Love, the Nobles," as in Donna.
Oh.
So cute.
Isn't that touching?
Not actually, it is. It's darling. Anyway, so it's just the cutest presentation. It's a travel pack spelled PAC for some reason. And since we're talking about him, I had to go and grab it.
That's excellent. And I love the alternating green and pink stripes. That is very much of the time period, that color combination.
Such a mood.
And for those that collect the vintages or like perfume in general, it's like you can talk just as much about how these things were presented and the packaging, the boxes, the bottles, the design, everything, the whole kit and caboodle. It's not just the perfume. Some people say like, oh, I don't really care what bottle it's in. I guarantee you there's certain things that I'm more motivated to get if it's in a bottle that's attractive to me. Like it's just the truth.
Talk about Baccarat for just a minute.
Yeah.
Like those bottles I have, I mean, we're not changing houses if we don't want to, but I have this from Ciro. And this is a brand that's been like resurrected, and I don't know if that's really the technical term, but like reconstituted, also not the right word. But look at this. Look at this little jewel kind of shape.
It's like an octagonal jewel.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, it is. That was really fast counting. Good job. Yeah. It's called Surrender. Also lovely. It's a concentrated eau de toilette blended like perfume for exquisite lasting quality.
Yes.
Yeah, and so these bottles, I'm pretty sure, I mean, it was just real. It was absolutely a part of it. Like,
Right.
it was a jewel on your dressing table. Let me tell you how this smells. I keep this one in its box, which I rarely do because, reasons. This one has a light kind of fresh quality.
Yeah.
Not as sort of spicy as Nostalgia, but a floral kind of like the kinds of Lily of the Valley type of fresh, almost soapy, some
kind of you if we're talking like colors or synesthesia, like a little green, a little white, a little crisp, a little watery, a little cool, but
with
yeah.
that blast of sort of white aldehydes,
Yeah.
kind of like just adding a little springtime chill to it.
Oh, nice.
Oh, beautiful. And it just blooms because it is maybe not as hot by me, but it is also not cold here either.
Yeah.
Ciro, though, I went on a absolute
Let's see the box there so we can
with Ciro.
Okay.
That's where the thing is. You're getting the ring light reflection. So look at this.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, look at me. I didn't mean to show my other one.
I don't care. Okay, so I found this back when you could find cool things on eBay, like 15 years ago. So this, Parfum Ciro Originals. And it's the minis. Like, I guess you would order a lovely kind of set like this to see if you wanted the full size. But when you open it, let me make sure I'm not going to spill anything. Okay.
This kind of reminds me of like a candy, like a box of candies too.
Yeah, but wait. I can't do this. It's going to
clap. Whoa, a brochure just flew out, or pamphlet. Oh, and there goes the wax paper.
I kept everything because I'm insane. But
I do the same exact thing.
Okay, look how cute.
Yeah.
So there's like a little
it's like a family portrait.
Order form, but the family portrait for spoilers. And then they have these little descriptions in here. Now you can change your fragrance to fit your mood. Discover which Ciro perfume you love most, which captures the most compliments. For the record, people were talking about that back in the day as well.
Yeah.
Not a new thing. Surround yourself with the famed flattery of Ciro. Yes, please. It's got pricing.
Flattery. That's the best alliteration. The famed flattery.
2 ounces for $2.75. A third of an ounce for $6. Just saying, maybe there's been some inflation since then. I don't see a date on it, but I don't even know what to think. So I'm gonna. I don't want to break it. Hold on. So we looked at Surrender. Maybe we should start with Danger.
Let's just check out. We're gonna zoom back in and we're gonna take a look at Danger.
Danger by Ciro. Look at this.
Wow.
Look how cute it is.
That bottle too, it's sort of architectural.
Yeah.
The way that each sort of layer kind of shifts back and forth. Look at that.
And there's an interesting parallel, I think, with Nostalgia, like some sort of like.
It's almost like this brutalist architecture, but the bottles were like designed even before brutalism became a thing.
I love that. And there's been obviously a little bit of evaporation, but I think that they're incredibly well preserved. They smell amazing.
Yeah.
I keep them in the absolute coldest, darkest place in my house.
Good, good.
As you do. We looked at Surrender. Oh, but do you want to see the mini of Surrender now that you've seen the full size of it?
Of course.
It's so cute. Look at it. Look at it.
It is a little baby octagon jewel.
Yeah, but when is the last time you got a mini that was a faithful representation of the full-size bottle?
They haven't been doing that since like the 90s. Like, it's been a long time since they've been doing that. They just don't want to put the effort into it. It's just the whole, not to get into, how perfume business has changed in 25 years, but they just don't put that effort in anymore.
Yeah, well, we could, but that would, then the people would be deprived of the vintage if we did that.
Exactly, because we don't want to talk about 25 years.
With an X is in a little triangular sort of a bottle.
Ooh, and I like what would you call that? The base there, how it's sort of trapezoidal, I guess. I know I'm using all this geometric terminology, but it just.
But they cut the triangle or the the little divot and then went up the side. Like this isn't just a triangle.
Yeah.
It is artisanal glass work. This is probably my favorite find maybe ever on the Eves.
We have a ton of comments that we could well, we don't want to miss this either. We'll get to the comments in a moment. They'll be patient. Oh, look at that. And that's also a trapezoid as well.
All the shapes are right. And this one, I think I have a full size of this one too, New Horizons. And it's this, you can't necessarily see it from me being a dork here on my phone, but it curves. Like this is a curve, a very gentle one, which I can share with you. We will leave Zero people at some point. I'm just not right now. Okay, so I have this.
I do think it's very important to see all of these.
All of them. Thank you for understanding. Well, we can go to Balenciaga or something more well-known, but I have this, and I, again, just kind of bought it for the bottle, but it smells amazing. There's like this Thunderbird cap.
Yeah, it's like a phoenix.
With a little,
it is totally Thunderbird. You're right. Yeah, the way that.
And it's, and it says, I think this is Horizon by Zero. Yeah. So it has that same curve as the little doodle. You know, they didn't make this Thunderbird into a tiny cap, but
I do see how it's sort of it's sort of concave. It kind of goes inward, and then on the outside. Oh wow!
So
we are totally nerding out. This is sort of like the next level of perfume nerding out when you just talk about like the bottles, and it's
they'll never come back to your channel. They're just gonna be like, oh my.
No, they will. I have a pretty loyal following here.
Oh, good. Okay. Be like, wow, they really just talked about bottles for 45 minutes.
No, people get into it here. Okay. My fledgling YouTube channel enables me to really get into the esoterica of perfume. We're gonna take a quick look at the chat here. With Regis Moncton, hi JJ. I hope you're having a good summer so far. Cartier Declaration Parfum and La Panthère EDP are two new ones for me, which I'm fond of. Well, congratulations. I'm glad that you found two perfumes that are putting a pep in your step. And Emily was just communicating to Regis. Someone just gave me La Panthère, and I'm in love with it. And Duncan appreciated the I Dream of Jeannie reference earlier when I was talking about the hobnail bottles. And Antonio, hey, Dalya and JJ, excellent indeed. And we also have Hecap06. Oh my God, it's Dalya. And Darren, so excited for this live. There's much more love for you, Dalya. You have fans, a lot of fans here. Basic Morlocco, good pal of mine from when I used to do the Mr. Smelly live streams. Hello, JJ in chat. Big fan of Dalya. This is going to be an amazing stream. We're already having a great time here. Some vintages are works of art perfectly representing their area. Indeed. Era. I said their area.
I wasn't going to say anything.
You could have said something. I give you permission because sometimes there's definitely malfunctions.
Just so you know, I don't think I can show him to you because he's in the mess of cables, but there's a kitty cat here who is so excited to have gotten into the perfume cabinet for his first time. He's smelling everything. He may make an appearance.
Well, I'm a cat person, so I will hopefully I will see your kitty cat friend who is sampling the perfumes.
He has chosen New Horizons, also by Zero. I didn't mention that I had these versions of I think this is later in their lifetime. But we have these lovely swirling bottles, later iterations. Unfortunately, these did not, I think somebody added water to make them more full.
Yeah.
Because that's what they smell like. But just the same, the caps are adorable.
And you have that sort of cinch waist kind of look to it, kind of vaguely similar to Youth Do, but still different because they kind of spiral. I love that.
Did somebody say Youth Do? So cute. Yeah, oh no, you really did. I just threw it out there, JJ. I thought like, well, maybe he would. Maybe he'll talk to me about vintage. And then it's like we can really just we could be here for a very long time.
There is no shortage of vintages between the two of us.
I've hogged the mic for approximately 5 hours. Who would you like to bring forward, we've talked about Zero. We've talked about very briefly, we started with Montiel, and then we had Lelong. Who's up next?
Let's see. Why don't I do this while I think about that? I'm going to catch up more in the chat. I'm very dedicated to my audience here, obviously.
Sure.
We have a très bon neuf. Très bon neuf. So glad to stumble upon this. I love you both. And we love you. Famous
Thank
YouTuber.
you. Great to have you.
Looks like a vintage Giacomo bottle. Maybe one of the bottles that you were showing them. Probably.
There were 10 at least.
There were 10 of them. One of them looked like a Giacomo bottle. Basic Marlarco, Giacomo au Cendré. That's a lovely one. Early 70s. Do you like Blazer? I found it for like $6.99 in a rack store. We're talking about Anne Klein Blazer. Yes, I did a review of it a few months ago, probably back in December. I actually did like a whole week of fragrance reviews for those that had Fifi Awards. They won Fifi Awards, and one of them was actually Anne Klein Blazer. I did that back in December. And hey, Jimbo, great to see you. And we're all caught up in the chat for the moment. We have 14 people tuned in. And what am I going to decide next? You know, I think that I will do a little bit of Maglif. If you're familiar with Maglif.
Ooh, yes.
Because, and here we are, we're not even talking as much about what they smell like as much as what the presentation is like. I love that Carven has this motif of green stripes. So what we have here is Maglif Parfum from Carven, and we open it up. Ooh, we have a
Le Vetiver.
Le Vetiver. So
yeah.
So this is a parfum of Maglif, and I don't have a very good focus. I hope to upgrade on the camera too, but that is. I'll take this out. Here is the bottle of Maglif Parfum. And would you notice this too with this bottle? It also, can we talk about that? It also has that architectural kind of the going on in the bottle here as well. Beautiful smelling stuff. Actually, Neil Chapman had recommended that I acquire the Parfum version of Maglif because it definitely exhibits some of the qualities that I think this is Germain. Isn't it Germain Seye, I think, who composed Maglif? If I'm not, maybe I'm wrong. You know what? Actually, I am going to check that right now to make sure I have the right perfumer. Because I'm going to
keep smelling myself because I have Surrender on one hand and Nostalgia on the other.
It's Jean-Claude. It's Jean-Claude. How foolish of me, right? Jean-Claude, the famous for the Carl method. He actually composed Maglif, and this has a lot of galbanum in it. This came from a time where they obviously were not afraid to put like 3% galbanum into a perfume, because this is around the same era as like Van Ver, Balmain Van Ver. Just beautiful, beautiful stuff. A lot of stearyl acetate. Yeah, let's go back. And you did a little show and tell there. Yeah, the little parfum version of Van Ver. So this is in a similar wheelhouse to Van Ver, in the respect that it is sort of like one of those earlier green sheets, aldehydic green, with the white and green florals and a little bit of more of like the narcotic florals in the heart, and then very mossy and grassy and sheep-like in the dry down, some styrax. Gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. Now, one thing that really amuses me about Maglif is that in whatever notes pyramids have appeared online, so I don't know if they're exactly accurate, I haven't been able to confirm this, but asafoetida comes up as a note. So for those who are not aware of what asafoetida is a spice, and it is also referred to as devil's dung because it's a very pungent, sharp, oniony, garlicky, strong spice that is used in the Indian subcontinent and in that part of Asia. And I love actually using it in small amounts in cooking as well. A tiny amount will go a long way. So I imagine that if it is true that asafoetida as an essential oil or whatever is used in perfume, it is used in traces because the stuff is pretty pungent. It's pretty strong. But it's probably creating that like grassy, stemmy, greenness in those tiny quantities. But Margrief is excellent. So I have the Parfum here, and then I have a Parfum de Toilette, also in the lovely green stripe box. Open this up, and then we have it in a little bottle here. So,
letting you know what to expect. Great.
Yep. Yeah, see? And you have that little C right there for Parfum Margrief. Great stuff. So that's my contribution. We'll sort of we'll go back and we'll do what are we talking about? Ping pong back and forth. We'll have you do the next.
I did forget one Ciro because I did, as I mentioned, get really crushed out on this brand. And this teeny weeny one, Ooh La La, is also from Ciro. I think what people ended up doing is they'd find these sampler sets like the one I held up before, and they just broke them up and sold them. Maybe like one or two were missing or something, and so they just sold them as minis. But yeah, I'm a big fan of that brand. Another, maybe could we say unsung hero of vintage?
We could say that. I've done a whole series of reviews for unsung fragrances.
Unsung is Le Dandy.
Le Dandy. So we're talking about
by D'Orsay. Yeah.
D'Orsay. Can you zoom? Try to get close. The box. Oh my God! Look at that.
Oh.
So that one over there is Intoxication, and that lovely lady on the box with her.
Well, she goes all the way around. Let me block the ring light so you can kind of see it a little better.
Oh yeah.
And then we've got here, blocking, trying, failing. There. So there's that, and then there's. Anyway, it's the cutest little cartoon, and the bottle is just amazing. Also very architectural, but it's kind of like a skirt, like hers in the picture.
Right.
With the little doodly doo on the top. So cute. I mean, can you just picture this on a dressing table, like with one of those foofy little like mirrors and the whole thing? I mean, it's just
like a vanity mirror.
Yeah. With like the little chair with the cushion and the mirror and
And if you're looking at the surface of the vanity, you'll see things like, you'll see like face powder, vanishing cream.
Yes.
And
the silver-handled hairbrush.
Yep. Exactly. And it must be a pastel pink. Yes.
Or yes.
Or it could be a pastel purple or whatever, but a pastel color.
And then, but D'Orsay had the best names: Le Dandy, Intoxication, Voulez-vous. This one is a teeny weeny itty bitty mini. I don't know if I can make.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?
It is very cute. So yeah, I don't know what I like I said, eBay is not what it used to be. So apologies to all the people who are like, what did you do? How did you do this? It was a long time ago. Oh, and I should show you Le Dandy. This is kind of a magical story because when I got it, the stopper was just like jammed in there. And I think I like froze it or something. And just like, I spent a very long time, very patiently, like wiggling it back and forth until I could get the stopper out. And it's lovely. It's absolutely gorgeous.
And what would you say the smell of Le Dandy is? Because some people are aware of the relaunch of Le Dandy and say that there's some similarities and some differences.
Well, I have not smelled the relaunch, so I can't compare it to what's modern. But it has a very bracing kind of astringent opening. The alcohol is strong with this one, which is one direction that vintages can go. But it settles into a sort of slightly resinous kind of just one of those amazing, like you can tell there's approximately 500 ingredients, but all blended into something just greater than the sum of its parts, even with all of those parts. It's very difficult to pick out individual notes for me. Some of the spice is a little reminiscent of Youth Dew in that kind of spicy, resinous, floral, like concoction of otherworldliness.
Right. Where you don't really know where the spices end and the resins begin. They just sort of like you say, they're just melded, they coalesce together. Yeah.
This Dandy wore velvet. This Dandy had, very tight trousers that
Yes.
just hugged in all the right places, and some sort of rufflage in the neckline, This dandy would hang out with Mick Jagger.
Total Beau Brummel kind of look. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
about. It has a boozy quality, not full alcohol, but just the astringent kind of beginning kind of settled into something in a snifter with this heady sort of exotica. I mean, gender neutral, I would say, but back in the day, I'm sure it was. I don't know. I don't know if this is a foppish dandy, but he knows how to party.
What it sounds like is the relaunch of Le Dandy is pretty. Just from your description, not that I know this for certain because I've never smelled the vintage version of it, but I do know that Dominique Plessas did the reconstituted version of Le Dandy, and it seems like he approximated it to the best of his ability, and smells fantastic as well. So, but what a treasure. And you keep mentioning this is way back when eBay was better, and I know that time because there was a time where the demand for this stuff really wasn't what it has been in the past few years. There were times where these vintage parfums from mid-century you could get for $20 or $30 tops, and now things happen. Social media,
we're trending,
and yeah. But those are some great finds. D'Orsay is I would say D'Orsay is an unsung classic house. It doesn't get its due respect, even with it being resurrected. I'm sorry?
Like Zero. I was
like Zero.
Even with the resurrection, it almost seems like a brand new kind of without a history, like a brand that just sort of sprung from the ocean or something on an oyster. But the Zero bottles now are so clean and they all look the same. And it's and I'm looking at my little sampler set wait, what? Where's Baccarat? Which I'm sure that's not how you pronounce it, but I do love
Baccarat.
Right.
I don't have I took French in high school, and I've been trying to find the time to brush up on it and actually speak it fluently, as in form sentences. But I do have a resident French speaker. I don't see him. His name is Philippe, and he usually does help me out and guess out with pronunciation if I fall a little short. Jean-Claude says, "What an exciting live stream on vintage perfumes."
We're geeking out big time.
Noah Drucker, a good friend of ours here. He is one of our new admins. He has a wrench there, so behave, people. He says, "Hello, JJ, Dalya, and friends." And we have Basic Marlaco. He says, "My approach now is to buy only what I love rather than endlessly chasing elusive and unrewarding unicorn scents." And it's true. There are a lot of them where the hype isn't necessarily warranted, and I've been there. I've wasted money. I have been fooled into thinking that I must have something, and then I'll realize this is just not for me, and this needs to go to a home where it will be appreciated, which is not here. So, but this one belongs here.
What's that one?
This one definitely belongs here. This is Rochat. This is Mystère de Rochat. And this is the Parfum version. And we will lift this up. This is from the late 70s. This is from 1978. We'll lift it up, and we will see the bottle right here.
Ooh.
And here it is. Now, this is one of my favorite fragrances from the 1970s. I have the Eau de Parfum version as well. This is the Parfum. Do you notice right there? Do you see that this is actually a garnet colored? See that?
Yeah.
It's really dark, but when the light hits it, because I have a little ring light over here, it's like a deep red. It's so cool. You don't really see this unless light hits it, but it's pretty spectacular. But what about the smell itself? So here we are. I found this actually on Mercari for people who... Now, Mercari is like what eBay used to be. I tend to find things for a pretty good price in comparison to eBay on Mercari. This is Nicolas Mamona. He composed some pretty incredible stuff in the 70s and 80s. This is an animalic chypre. There is this cedar quality to it that kind of is interwoven with the florals. It's really captivating. It starts off very green floral in the beginning with aldehydes and hyacinth. And then this is not a linear fragrance. It's like a journey. And when it starts to dry down a little bit, you get the spice carnation, this sort of raw, like earthy, animalic kind of narcissus, and then all the just like this panoply of florals in it, some cumin, some civet, styrax. It is just beguiling. It is just phenomenal, and it is highly coveted now, unfortunately. So here I am creating the hype machine. We all end up doing this, I guess, but this is one of my treasures, and I use this very carefully. I relish it, little drops, just to take it all in. So that's Mystère de Rocha from Rocha.
It really is a stunning bottle.
This bottle was designed by not Pierre Denon, the other one, Serge Mansell. Serge Mansell is one of my favorite. Serge Mansell and Pierre Denon created many of the iconic bottles in perfumery. Now, if you notice about the bottle as well, it is shaped like this. See? So it isn't merely just like an oval, but it is shaped like that. So
yeah, that is absolutely gorgeous.
Pretty wild. And I'm not even going to use some of it because it's too precious, but I just want to smell it from the flacon. I would say it's transcendental.
Oh, wow.
People talk about Magie Noire. When Magie Noire is beautiful, people talk about... I'm trying to think of some others that are considered witchy fragrances, but Mystère just takes the cake. It is like one of the most mystical smelling kind of chypres of the 70s. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. And I also have the Eau de Parfum is a little bit easier to obtain, and that's also no slouch. It's beautiful stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking down to see where we go from there. My goodness.
And I forgot. This fell out of it. It is, we love the little inserts.
Yeah. What does it say?
We would be remiss without talking about the inserts. Here's Mystère de Rocha.
Oh. Listen, I've only ever pronounced it American. It took me until now to know what we're talking about. That Rocha. One is really good. Yes.
It's like I've reminded myself it's like Degas, like the painter Rocha. The art of wearing perfume. You want to do a little recitation? It's not that.
Do it.
The art of wearing perfume is the art of moderation.
What? Lies.
The art of creating a discreet and lingering fragrance. Perfume should be applied to the pulse points of the body. The pulse points are in quotation marks. Pulse points of the body, where the blood flows near the surface of the skin, and the warmth helps the full bouquet of the fragrance to emerge. Mm-hmm. These are the shoulders and cleavage, known as the olfactory triangle, the nape of the neck, behind the ears, inside the elbows and wrists, and behind the knees. Lest we forget, that's another important olfactory part of the olfactory triangle. Never apply perfume on the skin if it has any kind of irritation. This is very considerate and helpful, to let people know to just do a spot test, right? Mm-hmm. Any kind of irritation, nor to the mucous membrane.
Oh, geez. Very specific. Good to know. Thank you.
I actually had never read this before. So I was new to that, like everybody was.
From now on, it's just going to be all about the olfactory triangle. I'm going to work it into every conversation.
And making sure to remind oneself not to apply to the mucous membranes.
Sometimes you can't help yourself. You just you're huffing the little cap and it's like, whoop, that was my mucous membrane.
Indeed. And we have a number of different mucous membranes, that's for sure. Avoid exposure to sunlight immediately after applying perfume, which is a good idea. Very, very good reminder. Yeah. I think they were keeping in mind the sensitivity some people might have when exposed to sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
Perfume can also be used on your clothing, but with care. Only sprayed very lightly to the inside of garments, linings, hems, revers, to avoid staining. Perfume is quote unquote living. And I agree with that.
I agree with
And
that.
needs protection. The top should be replaced firmly but gently after use, and the bottle kept in its box to protect it from heat and light. You don't get this kind of information today.
No,
They
you do
don't give
not.
you these kinds of helpful pieces, these helpful nuggets of information to help you know how to wear it,
They
where to
don't.
wear it,
In the dark.
what to avoid,
Mm-hmm.
and to keep it in the dark and keep it, gently. I'm telling you, man, it's just not like it used to be.
Well, and that is kind of the theme here, isn't it?
And also the moderation thing. Yeah, I agree with that. No overspraying. It goes on here. I like to do moderation.
Well, and they're mostly dabbers. This last one
Yeah.
I forgot about from Dorsey, this teeny weeny little divine.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, they're like, this is a dabber. I mean, I think it was a general pamphlet because obviously that's a perfume dabber. But
Right.
yeah, when you dab, it's the intention is to just sort of accent your body.
And I think given, the jewel-like quality of the bottles and the kind of, you're not pouring it into your hand and like,
right.
I don't think so. I mean, what do I know? But
that's more like Aqua Velva, or Brut, yeah. Which I can appreciate as well, of course.
Nothing wrong with Brut.
Nothing wrong with Brut.
It was a time. Okay, I'm taking
on to you, Dalya. Your turn.
Why don't we do a house that is still highly regarded? How about we go to Belmont? We looked at there earlier.
Yep.
I have a tiny little Jolie Madame.
Oh, Jolie Madame.
Jolie Madame here. And then I have a Miss Balmain somewhere. But let's talk. I mean, you mentioned Magritte as an excellent sheep, but let's talk about Ivoire for a moment because, wow, this. I mean, okay, probably not politically correct anymore. Let's acknowledge that what we're talking about here is elephant tusks. But, that aside, it's amazing. Amazing. I don't want to wear anything else in the spring. Like, once I've worn this it's like I wear it for the next 5 days because, like, nothing, a little, Sinead O'Connor covering Prince, like, nothing compares. It's just that good. This particular bottle design, I've had very good luck. I have this and a little backup. It's just glorious.
Would you mind if I stepped away? I think this is actually the one that I want to apply to my skin right now and have us really get into an in-depth conversation. Give me one second.
I will entertain the people. There's an insert. I will read to them.
Oh,
if you would like to yes.
By all means.
It'll be story time with Auntie Dalya. Okay, it's in French. We're not going to read that part because France will be offended. Okay. They're not shy. It starts out by saying the perfume is in an attractive bottle. Agree. Trimmed with imitation ivory, which sets off the rich and subtle personality of Ivoire de Belmont in a most perfect fashion. I mean, they're just telling you how it is. And then that is translated into other languages. Hold on. Okay. And then it says, all the delicate fragrances within Ivoire de Belmont are disclosed in, there's a typo, TEH instead of THE. Sacre bleu, in the eau de toilette, which is remarkably tenacious. That's true. Whether from the bottle or the atomizer. Okay. The Ivoire, there's a body lotion enriched with collagen, delicately perfumes, moisturizes, and tones the skin in a single application. Are you back or should I continue reading?
You can continue reading. Well, you can continue. You can continue reading while I just display the bottle here and I will actually apply. This is Ivoire de Belmont, but please proceed.
Yes.
Please.
No, there's a bubble bath and a bath oil as well. The bath essence leaves the skin soft, silky, and agreeably scented. It produces a fine foam that feels like a tender caress against the skin. My goodness gracious me. There's a deodorant mist, convenient, and a perfume soap. So really you can just layer this on and radiate gorgeousness.
I'm going to apply some. I just can't take it any longer.
Yeah.
And do you know who inspired me to buy this, pray tell? Do you know?
No. Was it me?
You were.
Really?
Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah, you influenced me.
Was it one of the springs where I just wore it for 12 days in a row? And
I was like, why is this woman wearing this over and over again? I need to find out. It was like 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah. That's on point. Oh, and then
this shit is good.
It's so good. And you can still find this occasionally. This isn't one that's blown up, but you really do have to like set an alert and look for it.
Right. Set an alert. Big. That's my tip that I always give my folks who tune in. If you do an eBay save search, make sure you get email alerts, because if it's something you look for, you're looking for rather, you get an email, you just get notified right away, and if it's a good price, you can pounce on it.
Yeah, as you should pounce on it if it's a good price.
Oh yeah.
If you want it. And to the person who said that they're not chasing white whales, respect. Like, this is just because I'm being crazy, like, doesn't mean that you have to.
Well, if it comes with your recommendation and my recommendation, and people have an idea of what our tastes are, then they can make an educated. They can make an educated decision. Like they know what we're into. And
a lot of times minis are a really good way to go too, because
exactly.
Van Ver.
Yes.
And look at how tiny that is. Okay. I mean, I do actually have very large hands, but it is quite tiny. I did not truly understand galbanum until this. I thought I did. I thought I knew. I thought I was like one of the cool kids who understood and was in the know. I was not. I was educated by this, and I keep it in its box because I don't want to use it up, because it's the only sort of modern, not the only, but one of the, I think, available modern fragrances that has a similar like hit of it is Pergola by Exaltatum. They're British, those, so I don't know how widely available they are in the States, but you can get it. It isn't like chasing the unicorn or whatever on eBay. And that is a very big green. But the thing is that the Balmain lasts. It's like, it like digs in, like the vines kind of encircle, and you are wearing it. And it's wonderful, which so many greens, like you get this initial hit of amazing, lush, verdant greenery. And then it becomes like vanilla? Or like
it ends up being like the steep curve,
right? And it's what happened? Like, there's I don't know. I don't want to talk too much trash, but I have one from Regime de Fleur, which is discontinued, so I feel better about saying it. But it's called Vines.
I've sampled that one. Yeah.
The opening is on point, and I will just spray it, and then it's like 3 minutes later, it is not that. So then I can spray it again because it's this giant bottle, and it's like that. I totally
feel like you're bamboozled, like you're set up to think that you're going to go on this journey, and it's just sort of like, yeah, that's going to be it. It's like
it's ephemeral, which is kind of part of it, maybe. But
yeah, I mean, sometimes ephemeral. Yeah, I can appreciate ephemeral sometimes, but when it's something that's so bold, and then it just shuts down, it's like you expect it to just sort of ease slowly, and that one is just, where did it go? What happened?
Yeah, there's a lot of greens do that. I think my skin chews them up, and some of the lighter, grassier greens actually have better staying power, but this one is
that is definitely a galbanum reference, because Germain Seillet used, I don't know, like 20% galbanum essential oil. That's for people who originally they say galbanum, and then when they go to Van Ver, they're like, oh, galbanum. This is actually.
I've said both. Yeah,
and it's like Germain Seillet. It's no, it's galbanum, and there's a lot of it, and it's just incredible stuff. And even I will say, Calice Becker in the 90s did a good reconstruction of it as well. So for the Eau de, I think it's the Eau de Toilette version of it, but it's definitely worth getting the mini parfum, because that will last you. You only need a tiny application.
if you're into the greens. And actually, there's some very interesting greens that have been released in the last few years. People have really taken it and just like dialed the volume up to 10 and really hit us with some really cool, interesting greens.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have to go for the vintage, but as a reference or it's just a really good one.
I mean, she loves both Ivoire de Balmain and Vin Vert.
Not to undersell Jolie Madame, because that is just if I have not been able to like spring for a full bottle vintage, in the original amazing square design.
Like that cylindrical. There's also like a cylindrical bottle that you can get, and then it has a little bow. The bows. And even the version from the 90s is really good too. I wouldn't say it's like too different from the older the Toilette.
I have a more modern one that's in a square bottle about this big as Jolie Madame. And I wear that one because I feel like there's more of it. But when on the rare occasion that I wear the mini, it's just like, all right, that's how it's done.
I'm going to turn over to the chat just a bit.
Sure.
And we have to do a little catching up for this.
Okay.
So I'm going back.
Oh no.
Yeah. we were really indulging ourselves here. Okay. And we actually have a question too. So we're going back. Okay. So we're back to where Duncan asked about Blazer. We're going to move on from there. We have Basic Morlaco who has a question for you. Dalya, if you were to start your vintage fragrance collection from scratch, which scents would you choose first and why?
Wow. The thing about vintage is that it's a little bit luck of the draw. I don't feel like unless you're willing to really spend, it's hard to choose. It's kind of like the cat distribution system. Like they find you. If you were trying to, it's not like modern fragrance because there are a limited number of survivors. It has to be like the right time, the right place. You have to find it, or you have to pay a lot of money to get it. So I think if I was starting again, I would do it the same way and just sort of like, that's a cool bottle. I wonder what it smells like. And I've only gotten one or two bad ones. There was a tragic Jean Pateau incident where it was pure vinegar. And even these watered down ones, I can still tell like what they used to be.
Right.
I think you're maybe setting yourself up a little bit if you try to go after a specific one, unless you go to someplace like the Fragrance Vault I think it's somewhere near Tahoe, and like she's kind of done the work for you, and you will pay for that privilege. But I can't answer your question. It depends on you, your skin chemistry, like what kind of fragrances you like to wear. If you're into the bottles, like clearly we are. And I think the fun is sort of in the hunt and in the chase, personally.
It's absolutely, because it's a whole other ball game when you're doing vintage as well. And you have to come into it with the understanding that you may come across those that are not necessarily, actually most of the time are not necessarily going to smell as the way that they were intended. So going into it with that knowledge and that expectation that it may not very well smell that way, and appreciate it for what it is. And then when your nose starts to really kind of like tell the difference, like you can kind of start to tell the difference when some of the citruses have turned a bit. And at first you'll be a little bit kind of jarred by like, oh man, this stinks. But after a while you're like, okay, I can kind of imagine what it would smell like. And I'm willing to kind of move on from that and let it develop. And usually as you get into the harder the base notes, there is a little bit more of the integrity that's been preserved. So those are some important things as well. And yeah, just make your own, what's the right word I'm looking for? Just when you're making your decisions, make sure you're going with your own intuition at the end of it all, because there's going to be a lot of hype. Like we said, there's going to be a lot of hype where people say that this must be in everyone's collection. This is an icon. It belongs in every collection. Do what you can to try to sample it before you commit. And if you can, it's like I said before, it's good to have friends who are willing to like decant or send you a sample. Don't commit if you know that it's going to be something that's going to send you back a lot of money, because you might end up with something you'll end up having to sell it, or you may not sell it for the amount you paid for it. Have we all been there? It's like, yeah, I ended up spending $300 on this, and now I can't even sell it for half the price. That can happen too,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
But you can find something that ends up being a signature scent
Yeah.
that literally nobody else has because it doesn't exist. And if you're into that kind of thing, which I'm into, like one example, I'm like kind of, I don't know if you saw me looking off to the side. It's not vintage like I've been showing off here. Okay, do that magical camera thing.
Of course. While you do that, we'll continue looking at the comments a little bit more. Famous YouTuber, aka Duncan JJ. You once talked about a fragrance in a round black kind of Art Deco style bottle. It's super rare though. I couldn't find it. I think what you're talking about is a fragrance from an Italian house, and not Italian, a completely different part of the globe, an Australian house. And I'm trying to remember the name. I'll get back to you on that. I actually did end up trading it with someone for something else, but I'll get back to you on that. We're going to bring Dalya back with what she now has for us here.
Thank you for your understanding. The reach is awkward, guys. You don't want to see it. Okay, so this one, I know. I really just thought it looked cool. This is how I choose wine as well. Now you know. It is my favorite vibe. And it's hard for me to even say I have a favorite anything, but this is like, if Susie Sue wore a fragrance at that time, at the height of the Banshees, it is like this sweaty, musky, not sweaty gross, like sweaty hot, like violet. I'm obsessed with this. I have like a backup bottle. I think I have 2 backup bottles because I'm afraid I'll never find it again. I wear this like a lot, and I have a lot of perfumes. So one that I go back to over and over. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this. Like literally nobody is like, what is that? And it's the stupidest advertising campaign for women, not for men. Okay, sit down. It's amazing. It's so good. Sit down. And this is just one that it was like, $20 or something. I was like, that looks cool. Like, to the person who asked, I feel like that's the more fun way to have a vintage collection.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's fun to have those things that didn't get any sort of attention from any circle, any forum, any message board, any YouTube channel. It's just, it becomes your own. Mm-hmm. And I have a number of those, and sometimes I don't even really like talk them up too much because it's just like I want it all for myself. I don't want to.
If I didn't have my backups, I would never mention this for that exact. Because
that is, and I know that one too, and it is unisex too. So it's not. It can be for men too, especially if you love your violet. And I love violet as well. I had to get it because it had violet in it, and I'm sort of a violet freak. So yeah.
I love it. I just sprayed like 12 times, which I never do, but I'm now in this lovely, gorgeous cloud. Don't make me use this thing.
The wrench, because he's a mod. See, that was from a conversation back at 8:39 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's how far back I am.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to catch up. So, Duncan, what you were mentioning, I think what you were referring to is Canturi by Stefano Canturi, Canturi. That has a round kind of Art Deco looking bottle. Kevin Verspoor was a perfumer. That might be what you're talking about. So look up Canturi, Canturi. That might be it. And it was originally a woman's fragrance. Thanks, Fragrance Fight Night. And enthusiasm gets the best of me. Don't worry, there's never enough enthusiasm. There's never too much of it, actually. Did you get Cascarilla on Mystère Parfum? Actually, as a matter of fact, so Cascarilla is an oil that you get from the bark of this tree, the Cascarilla tree. And it is this very unique kind of fusty yet spicy, woody kind of smell. There's actually another fragrance that I picked up just recently. I'll be reviewing it next week. That also, I know for a fact that the perfumer uses Cascarilla bark. It's called Odisiac number 6, sous le manteau. And Natalie Feistauer uses cascarilla in a lot of cascarilla oil. Beautiful stuff. I'm going to be talking about that next week. But I do pick that up, actually, Michi. Mr. Calvin, what did I miss? Did they mention any Naughton and Wilson bangers or sleepers? No, we didn't. Moving right along. Robes08. Another celebrity from the YouTube realm. I love the triangle. Get lost in it. Many of us do. And Fragrance Fight Night is having a blast here, chatting everyone. We're having a little soiree in the chat here. Mr. Calvin, Naughton, and Wilson have ceased trading. Apparently one of the owners spent all the money on chat. Okay, let's move on from that. Okay, moving right along. We have Au Ceylon. I wasn't into layering since, but one of Dalya's Instagram posts on layering Gucci Guilty Pour Homme and D&G Light Blue Pour Homme changed my perception. It was a good layering combo. I'm not against the layering. I think layering can be fun. I don't think that it's sacrilegious. I don't think it's disrespectful to perfume. Once you have the perfume in your possession and you own it, you can do whatever you want unless you're not hurting yourself or other people. Layer to your heart's desire. Some people are really anti-layering. They're like, no, that destroys the intention of the perfume. And it's like, do whatever the hell you want. You know? Yeah. All right. So whose turn was it? I think it's my turn, right?
I think it's your turn.
All right. We're going to do another green fragrance. This is Paco Rabanne. This is Metal. And this is the Parfum version. Let's
do the zoom.
Let's take a look at this. This is going to be a really fun show and tell. So this is actually, I got this courtesy of our friend Anuj. And we're going to open this up. Now, slide it open. And this is not styrofoam, by the way. This is like this polymer plastic that probably was only used until maybe the 80s. But it looks like ice. And this is where it's resting in. It's really bizarre stuff. And then it comes out like this in its metal case. Very much reflects the aesthetic of Paco Rabanne in the 60s and 70s. Very futuristic.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a beautiful, larger-than-life green chypre. This is different from Calandra. Calandra is more aldehydic. This is sort of like the sibling of Calandra. And it is more of a focus on Lily of the Valley, other white florals, jasmine, hyacinth. And it's aromatic as well. It has like leafy basil and any kind of other leafy stuff, save for like, it's not really rosemary because that would be more piney, but like maybe things like marjoram and I don't know, tarragon and things like that. And then it dries down like really mossy and musky and vetiver-y, and it's just beautiful, beautiful stuff. This is the Parfum version, and it's very dense and spectacular. I just sampled it tonight. It was my first time doing so. So I have actually the Eau de Toilette version, which is a large version of this with this. Looks like just like this. It's just a mini-me in Parfum form. Metal from Paco Rabanne.
It's taken me this entire time to find the very tiny eau de parfum that I have of Mystère by Rocha.
Ah.
Itty bitty bitty.
That's it. That is a tiny
beautiful one. And it says 85 degrees on it.
85 degrees. So that's actually the alcohol content. They would use a little degree symbol. Yeah. Yeah. So it's 80. So that means that 15% parfum to an 85% alcohol ratio.
Nice.
Isn't that cool?
No,
they don't really use the degree symbol for that anymore. They used to use that more common.
No, I just learned something. I had no idea. Yeah. I'd never even noticed it before. So yay. Yeah. We covered D'Orsay and Zero and Lelong and Balmain. Mm-hmm. And we just like flirted with Paco Rabanne.
A little, yes.
Rocha. Like you're holding up one bottle and I'm like, and here are 5.
Yeah. You're doing sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? Like sort of a lineup of different things from a particular house. And I'm just like, here's one. from this house, and here's one from this house.
Yeah. I mean, should we talk about Bandit? Like, I feel like this
Oh,
would be
yeah,
complete if we
sure.
don't.
Sure thing.
I think it's
Yes.
Robert Piguet, or
Yeah.
is how you
Piguet.
Piguet,
Robert
and
Piguet.
yeah. So Robert, of course, it is. This is one of my vintage treasures. Somebody earlier asked like where to start. I mean, if you can find it, maybe that's a good place to start. I think it's very unisex. It's a violet leather. It's
Hmm.
it has some overlap, I think, with Jolie Madame. It has
It
a
does. Yeah.
little, it's kind of the same mood.
Yep.
It's that very cool girl.
Yeah.
So
It's a variation on a theme because of Germaine Sellier, who did both of them. But interestingly enough, Facha, which also is Germaine Sellier, is like in a totally different direction.
totally
But
different.
with Bandit and then Jolie Madame and then Miss Balmain, which she also did, it is like these variations on the same theme where she built it around like a lot of isobutyl quinoline, like that kind of ashy sort of flinty, metallic, smoky, kind of weird leatheriness that kind of, it's hard to kind of put it into words, but you know it when you smell it. It's like, it was so influential for her to use that, and you would see it in so many other things, like down to like Aramis, and you have it, so much.
It's
Oh,
one of the
Jara too.
if I could only have, if I actually had to edit, thank God I don't, but let's say I did, it would make the cut, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I would approve of that decision.
Thank
For
you.
sure. Yeah,
You.
Bundy is
And if I also, just in keeping with the theme, I found this, it's definitely turned a bit. It's
Yeah.
not as Robert, what did you say? Piguet?
Robert Piguet.
Piguet intended. It is a musk bomb. It is that is what remains. But this whole aesthetic is just like everything. So we keep it. Just
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, like the fact that there were so many nitro musks used at the time, it's like a conversation piece of the amount of like musk ketone and musk xylene and all that stuff that they could use then, and then they ended up restricting those really heavily. Actually, musk ketone I think is like really restricted, and musk xylene is like banned. It's been banned for like 35 years, I think, or more. So those are the nitro musks that just, that it smelled different because the way those musks behaved,
they're it's like a little cartoon monster comes out of the bottle, like
it's like the tenacious. It leaves like a presence. It's like this sort of like an aura. Like they leave like an aura on whatever surface of your body, and you just don't quite get that same effect with most musks today. It's really hard it's been hard for fragrance chemists to recapture that using other kinds of musks like macrocyclic and polycyclic musks and stuff. So what did I just miss here? Oh, there was a question for me. JJ, are you solely a vintage fragrance kind of guy? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I have just as much modern or recent releases in my collection and things that I absolutely love. I'm not limited to one time period. I'm not a purist by any means. I'm not of the belief that vintage was inherently better. Vintage was just from another time, and a wonderful time at that. But new and modern fragrances, mostly more in the niche realm these days, occasionally designer, but more the niche, artisanal realm, under the radar is what I really appreciate for more recent releases. So, here's a fun one. I know that you're gonna, but this is like totally just like a funny thing that I actually received from a douche. This is called Nothing.
Oh, cool. What is it?
It's Nothing for Men. I have nothing.
Wow.
Nothing for Men. It is from Parfums Jamaica. This is actually a perfume house in Jamaica.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so far, it is just a really burly, hairy-chested cologne. I'm
Oh,
just smelling. I haven't even sprayed it yet, but I'm kind of interested in how this wears. But the
yeah,
name, nothing,
that's
nothing,
great.
nothing for men. Sorry,
Is that
nothing for men.
is it like 70s, would you say, or
No, this is actually, I think, the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely smells 80s at the latest. And I
nice?
love that font too. It's like that script font that kind of like, like it ain't no thing. It's nothing.
Oh, right. It's got that great kind of nod to the retro bottle design with those cuts
Totally.
in
Oh yeah,
glass.
yeah. It's
That's a
pretty.
very Art Deco kind of a thing. Like people were
Yeah.
so excited about Bakelite and new
Right.
plastics industry and giant skyscrapers and rockets. No, well, not rockets, but like airplanes and rail and steam um, and the 80s kind of did nod back to Art Deco quite a bit.
They did. A lot of that persisted for decades. And you're right. Actually, probably we started to see that futurism in like the 60s and 70s, and then the 80s we're like, we're going to dip far back again. We're going to kind of reintroduce some of those styles. You're absolutely right. I'm tempted to spray this.
Do it.
I'm loving the exposed crimper and plastic spray. It's like haute
Classy.
couture. Yeah.
Classy.
Wow. Yeah, this is kind of interesting. It's kind of like a late 80s version of sort of like a 70s burly fragrance. And the reason why I say late 80s is there's also like some dihydromercenol in it as well. It's so weird. It's
Mm.
like two genres of masculine perfumes just sort of like colliding because you're in the late 80s. It's like you still want to cling on to like those like 70s like hairy chested gold chain juggernauts, but you want to get a little fresh too, not to alienate the modern audience. It's sort of weird. Yeah, interesting stuff.
Fun.
I'll expound upon it later, but yeah, nothing for men.
Nothing.
On to you, Dahlia. We'll hear from you
I'm
next.
looking. I'm looking. I mean, again, we shouldn't really do this unless we're also going to at least mention Guerlain.
Oh, of course, Mahora. Oh,
Yeah, that's a
can we
very
talk
it's one
about
of
it?
the prettiest bottles I have. Like the cap has these little stars on it.
Yeah.
It has this sort of like nod to the East, shall we say.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful white floral. It's just and speaking of vintage amazing white florals from Guerlain, we also have and I think you might have this too, Jardin de Bagatelle. Bagatelle. I'm
Jardin
so
de
sorry.
Bagatelle. Oh my god, one of the best 80s
So
florals.
pretty. So pretty.
So good.
Gorgeous florals. And this bottle with this lovely detail
Yeah.
here,
Yep.
beautiful asymmetry. I mean,
Yep.
I understand the sort of economics of having all the bottles match. I do. I do. However, this era when you had just like a unique kind of sculptural bottle for that fragrance,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of miss it. I kind of
I
miss it
do
a
miss it
lot.
too. And I love how the bottles would often reflect the zeitgeist of the time. Like that asymmetry on Jardin de Bagatelle reflects the asymmetry that was really popular in women's
Fashion.
fashion at the time, where you had these dramatic lines. Like it's so reflective of that, and I think it's so cool. We just don't see that as much anymore. You're absolutely right. And it's what a knockout too. That is one of those Guerlains that don't get a lot of hype, and it's like, for what reason? It's like,
I think it's been eclipsed by some. I mean, they have such an incredible library of
for sure.
knockout scents,
Yeah.
and I also think that it was reformulated to its detriment.
I've heard, yeah. I only have the vintage version. I was
Yeah,
pulling one of those, right? No, but I've heard that it actually has suffered in reformulation.
yeah. It's I'm sure it had just some magical mystery ingredient that they can't use anymore, and it is not what it was, but it is
Yeah.
beautiful.
I
Very,
would
very.
I would guess that there were some certain materials in there that have been restricted or no longer permitted. My Bendit bottle smells like gray flannel. Interesting. I would have never have made the comparison between you, even though I love my gray flannel. I think it's late 90s, but I read a lot about Bandit being very different every decade. Perhaps.
Could be.
Could be. I have like a vintage parfum version of Bandit, and I have a Bandit Eau de Toilette spray from the 80s, which is like beast. Whew, love it.
I feel like you should. Are you doing comments or do you want to share Guerlain?
Oh no, you can interject and then we'll move on.
It seems like I don't want the people to think that you do not have representatives of Guerlain or Robert Piget or Balmain. Like, I need you to reassure the people that you too have fanboyed all over these brands.
Absolutely.
I just happen to be the one who mentioned them. It's not that you don't also have.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And you can, I have reviews wherever you can read reviews on them. I have reviews on Bandit. I have reviews on the Balmains as well. I found this comment interesting. The comment on Ungaro 2 or Ungaro 2, or how do you say due? Is it due in Italian? I'm just trying to be authentic. Ungaro 2, and it doesn't fly with me, the Civet and Vanilla, which is interesting because Civet and Vanilla really formed the crux of Jiquille. So maybe
that's very polarizing, though.
It is polarizing, but I love it. The parfum version especially, because it seems like the blending in the parfum, the civet isn't kind of sticking out like a thorn. It's more rounded, so it kind of feels a little bit more yummy rather than. I mean, not that I dislike the other one, but the other one would definitely be kind of like a polarizing kind of thing. Just add light. Hello. Howdy, beautiful people. Dalya, it's great to see you. Lovely to see that Anuj sent you nothing, JJ. Yes, I have nothing. Does it have a flanker named something? And then, of course, if there was, I would have to sing Something in the Way She Moves.
Gorgeous song.
That is a beautiful song. George Harrison. Hey, just like some of these fragrances, George Harrison, the underrated one, the dark horse. I don't mind Civet, neither does Dunk. This is a bad place for that diss. People love to talk about Civet. I swear some people talk about Civet without even knowing where it is and what it smells like. It has such there's such a myth and a legend behind Civet for being kind of really stinky and too animalic for most people. But people would be surprised where Civet is doing work behind the scenes and you're not even aware. When it melds with florals and other kinds of stuff. So
yeah.
All right. So I think we're pretty caught up with the chat here. We're talking about Zeno Davidoff as well. Let's see what else do you have for us?
I just said Guerlain. I think it's your turn, sir.
No, I can't keep track anymore. I have a Calon.
Oh, yeah. Is it the same one?
Yeah, it's probably a different one, but that one looks gorgeous. Is that Belogia?
It is.
Love Belogia.
Me too. That's my favorite carnation.
I love carnation. One of my favorite notes. What I have here is new from Anuj, from the care package that he sent me. It's a Nocturne de Calon. This is actually an 80s Calon, just like Jardin de Bagatelle is an 80s Calon. This is an 80s Calon. And this is an interesting bottle, too, because it is actually a charger. It was meant to go into an existing bottle. I'm sorry that it looks a little better there, but not that great. I love the little imagery here, though. That is kind of like you said, there's that throwback in the 80s where things just kind of look like, a Juan Miro painting. So, open this seriously. So you open this up, and it's like a charger, which I don't care. The box is worth it. But yeah, and this is a pretty good one. Not as much as discussed with Nocturne de Caron because it's not one of those Ernest Beau ones from the 1910s or 20s. It was during a time where, Caron wasn't really, it didn't really have the same luster as it used to, but it was still selling units. But it's a beautiful aldehydic ylang ylang with some aromatic citrus and white florals and stuff. And it's worth mentioning for sure. I'm glad that I have this for reference because I don't need a huge bottle. This is enough for me. Look at this. There also there is a sticker on it which makes it look very, like like factory. Like it's basically just says like an extension of Nocturne. So you just put it into like the main bottle that you use. It's like a refill. I think Cartier did that as well. They would like give you like
Or like a
refills.
purse spray, like some sort of bejeweled or like.
Yeah, you would put it into one of those, and it's
I
like
have,
you run
I have
out and
this
yeah.
from Guerlain. This is Shalimar, and it's it's exactly what we're talking about, where you take off this thingy job and you have just the
Right.
whatever.
It's totally the same idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has a little like spot for the sprayer to go through. I wouldn't want to carry this in my purse. This is really heavy, but it does kind of look cooler than the insert.
Yeah, totally. Like I kind of wish maybe I had the charger or whatever it's called, whatever this is supposed to go in, but it's more than made up for by having it in the nice little box here. It's not a big deal. I got it as a gift. I can't complain. It's nice.
No, I know. It's like I can argue it from both sides. Like I love having the bottle. Like I'm waiting for the right Shalimar, like vintage, that bottle.
Totally.
But
yeah.
I haven't come across it yet, and I happen to love the eau de toilette. The eau de parfum is harder to wear. It has a lot of whatever the vinyl shower curtain kind of feel.
I think
I like that, but I don't like it all the time.
I feel like it's more like special occasion. It wouldn't be like a spray and go kind of thing. You have to be in that right mood.
It's kind of like Black Orchid. I love Black Orchid by Tom Ford. I can't wear it that often. It is a one spray for me, and it's like a one spray where I'm holding my arm out like here because it's so strong. I love it, but it can wear me instead of me wearing it a little bit. Like Yves Saint Laurent New was like that as well. That's just wall of incense, like a brutalist ice cold wall of incense. Which I mean, there's a time and a place, but I haven't. So that's kind of still on my wish list of the vintage. I mean, obviously, like I'm not hurting. I'm fine. There's no rush.
There's no desperation. It's not an urgent matter, but it would be nice.
I mean, we're coming up on an hour and a half, so just to close us out, I mean, I feel like what should we say? Like, just mention a few designers that were amazing and maybe still are. I mean, Gucci Per Homme is new to my vintage collection. I got this at a estate sale, and it's delightful. I have no problem wearing it. I don't know what this Pour Homme nonsense is, but that one's gorgeous. I have some really beautiful Balenciagas. Lady, very pretty.
Ladies is lovely stuff. Yeah.
So cute. What about you? Any last thoughts here before we let the people go back to their lives?
Yeah. Well, we usually, this is crazy. We usually go for 2 hours, but
Do you really?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? 2 hours. But you don't have to go for the whole full 2 hours. We can do that.
I was kind of thinking like I've already lost 30% battery. I think I'll be fine, but I just didn't want to assume like.
No, we run into it for just another half hour. It's true. 2 hour live streams.
Yeah. I mean, I have more. I could continue. I just didn't. I felt like I've just been talking and talking and talking.
No. Let's give the people what they want. They expect the 2 hours. So if you're willing, stick around.
I'm willing. It's what nobody asked for. Was
it's what
all the things you can't have. All right. So we touched on Gucci. What do you have from Gucci?
Oh, from Gucci? Well, I don't have anything Gucci near me, but I could think of like a Gucci. There's a Gucci #1. So before the Gucci Pour Homme in the 70s, there was Gucci #1, which is this beautiful rose sheep. That one's really nice. It's actually a Guy Robert composition. I mean, if you want, I can go get the bottle wherever it might be.
Obviously. I'll have to find something to entertain the people with. Hold on.
Please
do. I'll show them. I'll show them the rest of the Balenciaga while you go get the Gucci.
Okay. All right. So do you mind if we have you on the spotlight here?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
I don't like having people watch me run around.
I understand completely. All right. Well, we talked about Lady. That one's really pretty. It's just like a sweet, almost sort of innocent, like with a little peach forward kind of beautifulness with the florals. So this same little bottle would have come in a block the ring light for you. Little presentation like this. But this one is, I'm going to say it really wrong. I'm going to be really sorry. It's quadrille. Quadrille. Somebody will correct me. And this is how the two kind of look side by side. It's the same bottle. And they would have come in these little cute containers that I think would look perfect on a dressing table. I feel like I have another Balenciaga somewhere, but I don't know. I put it someplace safe where I'd be able to grab it, and I don't see it. I have several concentrations. I have the eau de cologne, the eau de toilette, the parfums. I really like the D in particular. What's that? Tell me more.
This is the Gucci Parfum One. This is,
woo.
And here we have the belt, of course, little motif here, and we'll open it up and we'll show you. And it's very similar looking to the Gucci Parfum. Yeah. So,
nice. Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Kind of identical.
Yeah, they're compliments to each other. Let's both be on the screen so we can. So this is Parfum
One. Sort of the same.
Sort of the same. The belt might be a little bit different for the lady, but
well, yeah, but yeah. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, and I think both were composed by Guy Robert, and it has like a really nice, like, kind of like I would describe it as sort of like a rose de mai kind of rose, maybe. It smells different from like a, your typical sort of like Bulgarian rose. Mm-hmm. And it's just really, really lovely stuff. It's hard for me to really expound upon it. I almost want to spray it, but I already have too much stuff on my skin. But yeah, I'm trying to remember. It's very aldehydic too, and it's like there's a green. It's like kind of more of a greenish rose with like spring florals in it as well. And then of course it's mossy and cedary and woody in the dry down. Beautiful stuff though. Love Guy Robert. He's actually I'm very fond of his work as a perfumer. One of my favorite masculines is Equipage from Hermès, which he composed.
Well, I love Bernard Chant of the masculines.
Yes.
Genius. I have so many vintage Hermès at this point. It's a little bit funny. It's just like, again, I was at like a thrift store or something, and I was like, oh, well, there's an aftershave. I didn't even smell it to see if it was good. It was like $20. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe
no
not.
Doubt.
But it's got that kind of.
Let's zoom back in so we can take a. Yeah. There you go. That's the classic bottle. That's a splash version, right?
Oh yeah. It's 4.1 ounces. Yeah, it's a splash. Hold on, we'll do a little sniffy sniff here. Oh yeah, we're fine.
And we're really connecting the dots because Bernard Chant, I think, one of his mentors, or I think was Germaine Sayet, and that's where he carried a lot of her technique and the way that he punctuated his work the same way. And
no one does patchouli like he does.
Oh my God.
No one does leather like she does.
Yep.
No one does patchouli like he does.
Aromatics Elixir, Aramis 900, even the patchouli that you pick up in Alliage, the patchouli that you pick up with the leathery qualities in Azure. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
It's a total mic drop. It's just like, well, you're not going to do it better. You might do it differently, but peak.
Yeah. That is like that is definitely the era of perfume that, like, when I look at the collection, and we know that it is like an insane collection, it is so concentrated during that time period between like the late 60s and the early 80s. Just such a great time in perfume.
Well, we don't really know, honestly, what preceded it because there's so little that survived relative to, I mean, it's a much longer time for somebody to have kept something upright in a cool, dark place.
Yeah.
To have that experience, that German brand? What are they? Schwarzlove, J someone Schwarzloves. I have it somewhere.
Yeah.
Hold on,
Oh
I got
wow.
it. I got it. This is another resurrection.
Leave it to Dalya to stump me on something. This is. Oh, I
This
know.
one,
Yeah,
you know
I
them.
never. Yeah, I know them, but I never dove into their stuff. Yeah, yeah.
So I heard third hand, as all my information is. I heard they went and they like sourced. They like asked the people who has old bottles, like please help us. Like when they were resurrecting this brand,
Yeah.
and they tried to recreate as faithfully as they could. I heard. Trust but verify. I should probably do fact checking before I say things on the internet. Take it as such, but it's called Treffpunkt Dahlia, something like that. I just think I just messed up French and German together. Forgive me. Supposedly, this was what Josephine Baker wore from this line.
Really?
That's what they told me. I will buy a story, obviously. It is this amazing vetiver mango situation that I've never smelled anything like it. So,
Wow.
and this is by the way available for the people not chasing unicorns. Don't go
Yep.
chasing unicorns. Stick to the lakes and the rivers that you're used to. That's not a thing. But this one you can still. This is people have this. It is not American. It is German. But this one you can. It is a resurrection, like Ladandi, like Zero.
Yeah.
Although I don't think Ladandi might be faithful as they can. I don't know. I haven't talked to them, but
yeah. I
but they
only
try,
speculated based on your description of the vintage version,
which is delightful.
It seems like it. So I have not sampled anything from this resurrected house, nor am I aware of any vintage versions. It sounds like the vintage versions would be really difficult to find anyhow, but because considering they needed help trying to find the vintage versions, so
I don't know. I haven't looked. I haven't tried to find the vintage either because I'm delighted with the modern.
right. Oh,
But I
you know,
found the modern first and then learned it was a resurrection, whereas
yeah,
I knew of Ciro and Ladan, or D'Orsay and
Dorsey,
Ciro. I keep
yeah,
calling it Ladandi because that's my favorite one. But
yeah.
I did go on a kick where I bought like all the bottles of intoxication I could find because just to see how they aged so that I could try to piece together what it smelled like based on different survivors. A lot of them are really good still. I don't know if the experiment was a success or a failure, but you can find those gorgeous bottles for like nothing because nobody's ever heard of D'Orsay. But now that they've resurrected it,
Yep.
people have. Maybe that's not a thing anymore. I don't know.
Yeah. And we're talking about the one that the older bottles look like a gown. Those sort of.
Yeah, this one. And I only grabbed this one because I have the box for it.
Yeah. Which is really a treat in itself because
charming.
It's hard to find some of the vintages with the box still included. We have a question for you, Dalya. We have somebody asking you, High Cap 06, what is your favorite men's scent or scent that was originally marketed to men? That could be for anyone.
Aramis after
Aramis. Nice.
It's so far ahead. I do have several men's scents. The Gucci Per Homme, as previously mentioned. I have Abbey Rouge from Guerlain. I have a few, not like a ton. I have Kouros, but Aramis, the original aftershave just puts them to shame as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. It is the ultimate, like, what's that guy? It's the Tom Selleck. It's the mustache Burt. What's his name?
Burt Reynolds.
It's that guy from the 70s who just like unabashedly Marlboro Man kind of just. But I mean, I think it smells great on me, so I don't know what that says about me. That's easily my favorite. But are you asking about, is that person asking vintage or just I mean, it's vintage or modern.
I mean, maybe within the topic of vintage, but I mean, you don't have to limit yourself to that. I mean, there could be.
I mean, it's the same answer, even if we're including modern scents. So I don't even know why I asked, but I'm trying to think what I have that's modern and masculine and interesting. I mean, just nothing compares to Aramis, though. So good.
You did mention Tom Selleck, and do you know that Tom Selleck was actually the spokesman for Chaz? So Chaz was by Revlon, and it was sort of like the men's answer to Charlie. And if you look up ads, it came out in, I think, 1976. I have it somewhere in the back. I could get it. I mean,
you could. I could talk about Polo by Ralph Lauren.
I'll get Chaz since we're talking about Tom Selleck.
This one's really good too for Hiccup High Cap 06. I will. It's just a mini because it has been reformulated. So I wanted to kind of go back to what it was. So this has the little horse dude. And this is a lovely masculine as well. I mean, it's a vintage video, high cap, so I'm just going to stick to vintage men's because, frankly, I know more about them. This is very beautiful. It's okay, Aramis is still the best, but this is another one that I like. You can probably find a vintage of it if you look, because it was it was very popular. I mean, as was the Aramis aftershave. Like, these are not impossible vintages to source. And this one just has like that soapy kind of like Irish Spring mossy kind of green. It's not as like out there as the Rogue Perfumery Mousse. What is it? Mousse Illumine. It's not that big, but it has that kind of like soapy, manly kind of clean, freshly showered action. Ooh.
This is the Chaz.
That's lovely.
And it's another one of those with the exposed crimp and plastic atomizer.
Yum.
This is a beast. This... People often discuss a lot of the more rare sort of men's fragrances from this time period, like the Balenciaga Portos and what have you, which is also fantastic as well. But this one, I think just because it was Revlon, and Revlon isn't necessarily like a cool designer brand, so people think, yeah, it must not be that great, but it's good. All right, I will spray this one. Because I'm getting kind of tired of the nothing. I want something again. Yeah. This smells like Rockford Files.
Yum.
This smells like Kojak. It's like totally like a Telly Savalas kind of smell. Like and Tom Selleck and you name it. Think of like the alpha males from like the 70s. So good though. So good.
And high cap, it must be said, I'm not super into gender with fragrance. I think wear what you want to wear, masculine, how you choose to define it, in my humble opinion. I think your body chemistry contributes something to whatever you wear, whether it's a targeted or marketed to men or unisex or women. So don't limit yourself necessarily. There's one, my favorite Byredo, for example, it's a Oud Immortal. And it's this super medicinal kind of like resinous, amazing, just there's something about it that's it's almost holy, which it's beautiful. And it has like this limoncello kind of like quality to it. I think that's probably intended to be masculine, but I wore it and one of my girlfriends like went and had to get it as well because it's a very spiritual kind of a scent. So I don't know if that helps or makes it more complicated.
Micah, I recently shared a review of my Warner version of Polo. But I still think that the Cosmere version is pretty fantastic as well. But Warner was like the version they made until about 1985. And everybody goes crazy over trying to get the original version of it. I shared that a couple of weeks ago. And also, I noticed that you mentioned, Cyberis by Puig is another lovely one from the late 80s. That's a great one to mention. And yeah, totally. I'm glad that you agree. Yeah, up until what, I don't know who took it over after Cosmere. I don't know. One of those big conglomerates, L'Oreal. I don't know. Estee Lauder. I don't think it's Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder's too high end. Probably L'Oreal. So, what I can also share like 90s. I mean, I can still consider vintage 90s to be somewhat vintage.
Vintage is 20 years, if you can believe it.
Yeah, so even early 2000s, you're right. I was sharing this with you when we were backstage before, and I just have to share it with our audience. But this is from Mario Valentino, and this is from 1999. This is Eau d'Essence. Check out the mirrored cap here. So it is a cap, and it is very mirrored, and fingerprints will show up immediately. But this is not an exposed crimper because this was a fancy pants. So they didn't expose the crimper here. Now, I know that Dalya, you didn't remember this TV show, but I want to see if anybody remembers the TV show from the 80s. It was like a syndicated TV show. It was called Out of This World. And it was from the 80s. The daughter, her father was an alien from outer space, and he married her mother and had her as a kid, and she had superpowers where she could stop time and all this. Short of the story is, when she would speak to her father, who was still in outer space, the object looked much like this. It reminds me of that TV show. I hope somebody out there remembers this show. It was like a...
It does sound familiar.
Donna Pescow was in it, and Donna Pescow, she was also in, Saturday Night Fever. She had her own show, Angie. I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent, but yeah, somebody, please remember that show. I mean, I'm kind of old, but yeah. But the smell itself, it's blackcurrant. I've noticed, and like tea. Like I've noticed, like in the '90s, tea notes were like a big deal. So it's lovely stuff.
I have another old one. I don't think it's very high end. It's called Replique by Raphael.
Replique. Yeah, that's a classic.
And this is one that for a while you could it was all over eBay. And maybe it still is. I have one, so I haven't looked for it. It's another dabber. It's got this great color to it. It's a softer kind of a don't let the juice fool you. It's not a beast at all. It's a soft kind of a skin scent, but a very romantic one.
Yeah, that's a classic. I still haven't found a good bottle of it. I often run into it in vintage stores, but it's turned like too much. Like I want to find one that's not turned too much, that still smells gonna like it still has like a semblance of what it was.
I think I got lucky because I did buy one with a sprayer because dabbers are annoying and I never think to grab them.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, I forget how you called it, like an exposed something sprayer.
Exposed crimper sprayer. Yeah.
So it was one of those, and it's exactly like what you were describing. It was just like, oh. So right. That has been either, I don't know. I think it cleaned out the inside of my sink quite frankly.
A little worse for the wear, as they say.
It wasn't the best.
I didn't even show them that. Like, oh God, the fingerprints obviously are showing at this point. But it has a stand. The bottle has a stand. Like, it comes with a stand, and that's where you sit it on. And it has the name on the stand. And Micah C. Shoemaker remembers the show because the daughter's name was Maureen Flanagan. Somebody remember the show. And then High Cap 06. Yes, it looks like the Ace Cable Award or something. It does look like kind of like an award that would be given for something like, Best Supporting Actress in a Cable TV Series, and then they get this award. Totally.
I want everyone to know that the little dab of Ralph Lauren Polo has taken over. I sprayed Sonia Reichiel like 4 times, and it's the Polo that I can smell. Every time I move my hand, it's just this beautiful green waft of mossy, soapy delight.
It's amazing. Yeah, there's something about the base in that just it's like what we were talking about earlier. It creates the aura. It's really something. Yeah.
There's a lot of I guess classics that are soapy and they're soapy because there's like a drugstore bar of soap that has a beautifully composed fragrance that you now associate with soap.
Yeah.
I have okay, do the camera thing because I'm going to grab it.
Totally. But this is actually a good topic that Dahlia mentioned, because a lot of everything from like bars of soap, hand soaps, cleaning products, health and beauty products, a lot of them were developed with perfumes that were taken from some classic, well-known, well-tested, commercially successful fragrances. And now when we smell them, they smell like the soap. But they actually, soap smells like them. Climat. Yeah.
From Lancôme. And this smells to me a lot like ivory soap.
Yeah.
Any international viewers, you may not have the Irish Spring or the ivory soaps. And for that, I am sorry. But like, if you ever make it to the States, like go to a drugstore and get a bar of soap. It's no money and it's uncanny. I don't, they're not the same. They're not even like by the same person, I'm sure. Yeah. But this has that. I mean, this is a wall of scent. This is so strong, but it's like ivory soap. But like good.
I love that, actually. And it would be interesting to find out the origins of ivory soap and how it came to smell the way that it did, and whether or not it has any kind of correlation to aldehydic florals that came before it, and they realized like, this is so pleasant, we should make a soap that smells like it. And now when you smell something that maybe inspired ivory, it's like, oh, it smells like soap.
Who decided that orange blossom smells clean and lily of the valley? I mean, it's ubiquitous though. It's very rare that you have lily of the valley with anything skanky. It's like fresh and clean. And who decided that moss was clean? Think about what it is. It's spores. But how many bars of soap have that mossy, clean water association? I mean, and I can't have this bottle in my hand without showing off the very cool sprayer situation.
Oh, right. Yeah, the built-in.
Very charming. I mean, it's plastic. It's not,
Yeah.
super glam, but it's a lovely, this one is a cut glass. It's not, some of the older bottles, like this is molded glass. Yep. It's mass produced, whereas
right. There's
these older bottles are like, I don't get that impression at all.
No, like it's like they worked on each bottle and then they were like hand filled.
I want to believe it's possible. But yeah, a lot of my vintage collection is minis. Occasionally I find dead stock. This is dead stock. And by dead stock, I mean like it's new, but it's been sitting in a warehouse somewhere. So it's not pre-owned by somebody else and sitting in somebody else's drawer. It's just, it was for whatever reason never sold. This is a tester. I'm going to butcher the name. Let me just make sure. Will you say it, JJ, and save me from myself?
Sure. Oh, Cacharel Lulu.
Thank you. It's this is I think I'd call it a white floral. It's very 80s. And it's just a charming bit of plastic. Kind of a powerhouse, but dead stock is another good way to go if you can find it.
Yeah, dead stock. Sometimes they find that there was inventory that just sat somewhere for a very long time, and if it was fortunate enough to be sitting in a dark, cool place for a long time, then you have a lot of lovely fragrance on your hands, and sellers will find that and they'll just sell one after another. And that's why when you go on eBay, sometimes you find that they have like 15 of them at a time, and they're just selling one at a time. Yeah.
What's weird to me at this point in my fragrance journey is that I've been in this game for long enough that I have stuff that doesn't exist anymore. I have what will be maybe, sought after because it was discontinued or a limited run, or there's a local guy, I think, what was his name? Miris was the name of the brand, and his early bottles, he just had like a wax seal on them.
Hold on. Let's take a closer look.
Look how cute that is.
Oh, yeah. I love the wax seal.
And I saw Neil present at a local perfume store. Really smart guy, like just and he then went on to make these. I mean, I think they're 30 mils, but he had like a design on the bottle for later. I don't even know if the brand still exists. I think it was a victim of lockdown, like so many.
Yeah,
But,
a
like
few
you
of them
can,
folded.
well, I don't even know. Maybe he just like had done what he wanted to. I haven't seen him, and I wouldn't ask. But
Yeah.
it's just great. I love it. I'm halfway through it. I keep it in the box with the vintages because it kind of is in a way.
Well,
It's
when
not
something is
replaced.
discontinued, it's destined to be this vintage. Like, so it makes sense to. I mean, or if you decide that it kind of smells vintage as well, you can have them adjacent to your vintages. I know I've
It's a
been.
very chill kind of like calm scent. It's not a big,
Right.
but it's very beautiful. I know what you mean, but there's so many reasons that fragrances are discontinued. Either they're not selling enough, or an ingredient is no longer available, or whatever.
I think that's why Muguet porcelain from Hermès they discontinued it because Jean-Claude Ellena just didn't really want to continue producing it without the lilial that was necessary because
I
they
have
banned
this,
it.
I have this one from Penhaligon's, Ostara
Well, Lovo Star, that is
ring light.
a
That's another
wonderful
one where,
discontinued one. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's just the most beautiful, sweet kind of almost candied daffodil.
yeah,
Very beautiful spring scent, and the box was just incredible. It was
yeah.
like hand glued tissue paper daffodil petals or
I
something.
know.
I mean, like that's not sustainable. But I mean, it's a design choice, and you better believe I kept that box. I mean, it's gorgeous.
You got to keep the boxes,
You
and
gotta keep.
especially if you never know if one day you have to transport them. Like it's going to be a lot easier if you have things in the boxes.
I did have to transport. I mean, my collection wasn't as big at the time, but I used wine. What do you those things that you put in between cups, the cardboard doodles?
I totally know what you're talking about. Like they make like compartments. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And I like, put like bubble wrap. It was so neurotic. Like, bubble wrap around them and bubble wrap underneath them and bubble wrap on top of them and bubble wrap stuffed in the cracks. Yeah.
yeah. The endeavor of my having to move with my collection is something that would just give me a panic attack right now. That would be a long-term project.
Yeah.
Like if I knew if I was going to be relocating, I would immediately embark on a very huge project to make sure everything is safe. So, and that does involve making sure you hold on to your boxes because it's a lot easier to transport them when there's already a box, and then you can surround them with any kind of additional layers of safety. But I know some, YouTubers and content creators say ditch the box. No, see, and I think it's absurd. It's like a lot of the boxes are fucking cool to look at too. Like, why would you want to get rid of them?
Because they take up space and you don't
They
have
take
space. But
That's true because I have like a whole closet that has like bins that have boxes. So yeah, there
right,
is. Yeah, there is
right.
that. So
And just I know we're winding down. If you ever ordered frozen like liquid nitrogen, like Omaha steaks, for example, if
yeah,
you've
yeah,
ever ordered
yeah.
from.
When they contain, yeah, they know exactly
So
what you're
they
talking
come in
about.
these like styrofoam coolers.
Right, right.
Um, and I just feel like I'm never going to throw them away because if I do have to move or if I choose to move, what an amazing like transport. You put in those inserts, cut them to fit, you put in your bubble wrap all around, and then it's somewhat temperature controlled. And it's got, if somebody drops it, you've got this much styrofoam and you can kind of put twine around it.
Totally.
Just saying, don't be worried. Like when there's a will, there's a way.
It's brilliant thinking. I think it's important to. You're welcome. I think it's important to think about these things, especially if these, our collections are really meaningful to us, and we want to make sure that they're safe and sound as they travel to their new destination along with us to the new home. So, I think we covered so many great things. So, what we're gonna do? So, I usually start playing the theme music and I talk about the next one, stick around. We're going to go backstage for a couple minutes. I'm not going to keep you up. I know it's early where you are, but we'll chat for a little bit backstage. But let's get started with doing the outro. I'm going to get the theme music on because I don't have somebody producing this for me. I have to get that stuff myself. So here comes the music. So that was our first of 2 summer sessions. The next summer session will be on August 15th, and we will have Adam Green. Adam Green of Moldy Peaches fame, musician Adam Green, who's also a huge perfume enthusiast and just a pleasure to talk to and joke around with and have a fun time. So he's going to be joining me on August 15th. And that will be an earlier session. It will be running at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that'll be really exciting for people who are in Europe or in Asia because they get to see it in real time. They don't have to worry about watching the archive because many of these are really late. Our European people are really fast asleep right now. So that would be great for those folks. And of course, as always, they're archived. So tune in for that. So we'll have a second summer session then. And then the next time I return to my YouTube channel, it is going to be in September. And we will relaunch everything, starting with the first episode of Effluvium, guests to be announced. And then we'll be returning to Notes and Accords. We'll be returning with Chypres. We're going to do a first hour of all the materials that could possibly go into a Chypre. Within reason in the first hour, and then in the second hour, I'll be sharing all of my favorite Chypre fragrances, or as many as I can that can fit into that hour. So I look forward to that one. But thank you very much, everyone. We are going to be signing off. It's been a great 2 hours. Dalya, thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I know this was a long time in planning. We were talking about it like last year, but we finally did it. Woo! And hopefully we could do this again soon. Maybe sooner than later. So
if you're not already, look for me on Instagram at theperfumed Dahlia. I post little digital dioramas of different fragrances in my collection. And any announcements about things that I'm doing on the side will probably start there. So
yes, I do recommend following Perfumed Dahlia. Please do that. I know a lot of you are already a big fan of hers, but for those of you who are not already aware, she comes with my recommendation. That's why she's my guest. So do look her up on Instagram. So until next time, everybody take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you more soon. Dalya, just stick around. We'll bring you back in for backstage. All right, everyone. See you soon.